most major river systems also cross a number of national boundaries. And so the rights of countries or states along a river system is also a very complicated question. Can the upstream country do anything that it wants, irrespective of the implications downstream? Those are matters of treaty and power intermixed. So your question is, what should it be? What is it? How do we get closer to what should be? And it's a pretty complicated mass of problems. One thing that I'll just mention in closing is that, and you mentioned it, John, the fact that when you have a scarce resource, putting a price on it makes a more efficient use. And so there is a general feeling that since water is definitely a scarce resource and it can be wasted or not wasted, in other words, used with a different degree of efficiency, there needs to be a price on water which accurately reflects its scarcity. That's fine and good. It's actually a sound idea from a basic economic point of view. It can't work from a societal point of view quite that way. If you priced water that way, you'd also price a lot of people out of life. And we have, therefore, with water, an issue of efficiency always intermixed with the question of fairness and justice, always intermixed with the question of today's generation vis-a-vis future generations. So there are lots of interests, and efficiency in a simple way, oh, we need to put a price on it, can never be the full answer if there isn't also an attention to the questions of justice and sustainability. And that requires a much more holistic way to think about this challenge.
Yeah, I mean, pricing water are fighting words in some parts of this international debate because they feel it's commodifying something that should not be commodified. So there's this debate that's raging out there, and yet you can find the other side. If we don't price it, then people will continue to not appreciate it and will not value it.
Well, lucky us, we got Fort Knox right over here. You know, right. I mean, really, this is quite an enormous situation, and I'm feeling a little fortunate and a little gluttonous being an American and living right next to Lake Michigan. I mean, that is our good fortune here, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just hope we appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so the last comment from the two of you then. Peter, you're talking. Keep talking. What do you want us to do?
Well, I think if you don't know where your water comes from, go home and find out. It's a particularly interesting question in the Chicago metropolitan area because a lot of you...
If you think the answer is the tap, find out a little bit more.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, lettuce comes in bags, you know.
Because a lot of you get your water from Lake Michigan even though you live far out in the suburbs, and that's a very special, unusual privilege here in the Great Lakes region that's quite controversial in other parts of the Great Lakes region. So find out where your water comes from and how much water do you consume in your household. The figure was up here about 100 gallons per person in North America. That's actually, I think, a very positive number. The number I've seen most readily is 170 gallons per person in North America.
Per day.
Per day. And so in my household, we actually go over the water bill at the kitchen table, and we talk about how long our showers are and whether or not we really need to flush the toilet every time. The single largest water use in American households is toilet flushing. So if you have an old 5-6 gallon toilet, then you're wasting 4 to 5 gallons every time you flush it if you don't have a new low flow toilet, for example. But you don't have to, it's tough times. People don't want to go out and buy a new toilet and hire a plumber to install it if they don't know how to do it themselves. But there are other simpler solutions. You can go get a brick or 2 bricks, put it in your toilet tank, And that displaces a certain amount of water every time you flush. And so you can have a cheaper version of water efficiency where you are. So I would just say, become a better water citizen through awareness, and then vet your own water use. Do you really need to water the lawn? Water your gardens by hand. That's a big thing. With a little pitcher, that's a really hot thing in the water use area. And then, since I'm a Great Lakes guy, if I could, if you haven't taken your kids to the Great Lakes, take them to the Great Lakes and tell them how special the Great Lakes are, because it is an amazing place, and we are very, very privileged to be here.
Well put.
I feel so good. I grew up in Detroit, so it's a part of this system, and it's really good to think about that. I think I would close by talking about our role as citizens, not only as individual consumers and households and water users, but our role as citizens of this country and the world. We're lucky. You've sent, this community has sent a quite remarkable person to the White House. We're all thankful throughout the country for that. And we need to press him and press the Congress to make sure that we as a country now respond to these challenges. We've not done so yet. The debates are taking place right now about climate change, for example. It's extraordinarily important that we let our leadership know that we can't go on with the kind of mythology or eyes closed that we've had, even though that is still a seemingly convenient place for a lot of Americans or a lot of politicians to sit right now. If we don't start addressing these issues with urgency, we will lose the chance, actually, to get them under control. And water is part of this bigger subject of sustainable management of our infrastructure, climate system, a sustainable energy system, all the things that are on the table for the first time in a generation right now. But time has been wasted so much that we've been pushed to the wall. I want us also to let our politicians know in our name that we care about the rest of the world. We care about it for two reasons. One, we know that there are the other 95% of humanity outside of the U.S. borders, and we care about them also because they're human beings, and we're cognizant of the global stresses and the stresses that we have put on other parts of the world through our actions. And we care about it because we understand that it's a dangerous world, but it's the kind of danger that can't be solved by a mighty military. And I think this has been tragically and amply proved. The only solutions to the instabilities that we find right now are to let other parts of the world know that we are partners in helping to solve human problems, starting with food supply, water stability, and the extreme poverty and deprivation that they face. That's our greatest security.
As we said at the beginning, thank you for thinking about water. Keep doing it. Have a good night.